circumstance to go. Leave me, run like you've never run before. A voice from the underground, giving room to breathe, not but be drowned. So die if you get the chance. Better men than you've been, let this dance to go. Leave me, run like you've never run before. I have seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away to go. Leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you've never run before. Yeah.
See that wee delayed bit at the end there caught me out slightly. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast. It is, as you can tell from these dulcet tones, I know you've all missed me. It's myself, John, in the hot seat tonight. We have got, we're just going to take a wee bit of a kind of slower paced, more light-hearted look at the world of Scottish rugby tonight. I am joined by one half, that's not a thing, one half of what I've affectionately titled as the Propstars. It is Craig Manson. Craig, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, mate. It's great to have you back and have you on the pod again. And it's just like it's a little bit like listening to the old times when I used to sit and listen to the pod myself. And then it's nice to, the little bit in the middle where I had you and Cammy and Ian and everything. And then it's just, it's nice to just have you on. And I'm in a good mood.
I feel like sometimes we're getting to that point now where it's a wee bit like when, you know, these older bands go out on tour and they play the greatest hits, but they're not quite there anymore. But you know, they still churn it out, and there's a bit of nostalgia there. I feel like maybe that's what I'm playing on now with my podcasting. So
Is this the rewind version of the Scottish Rugby podcast? And we're going to get the old hits out of that Scotland fans are all Egypts and
Scottish Rugby podcast, the final tour. Yeah, I'm going to try and get lots of different podcasters together and maybe do a big live stream in Birmingham and charge billions of pounds per ticket for it. But I'm not quite sure it'll be as popular as Black Sabbath have managed to do. So, anyway, if you are joining us, welcome. We're just going to do all of this podcast is going to be free for everyone. Yay, freebie! Whoop whoop. which will be great. So please, if this is your first time joining us, feel free to have a wee look on our Patreon. There's lots of details on the video here. We'll put the details on the post as well when we pop this up. But yeah, come and join us at scottishrugbyblog.co.uk, and you'll see lots of content on there, which is all absolutely tremendous. A lot of us started by starting writing on the blog many years ago, so it's kind of cool to still see that flourishing and being a great source of information and articles.
I think my first article was has Edinburgh's attack been blunted? And I'm thinking to myself, hang on a minute, am I in like a sort of Groundhog Day? Because I could write the same article and just replace Richard Cockrell with Sean Everett, and then it would all be fine.
It's quite upsetting when you look back at some of the old articles. I read some of the stuff I'd written like ages back, and was I very into a certain Glaswegian scrum half who we may or may not mention in the news section. Lo and behold, we are joined by the second half of the Propstars. It is my friend Allan. Allan, how the hell are you, pal?
I'm very good, John. Thank you. How's yourself? Hi, Craig.
We're doing good. We're going to take this one light-hearted, light and breezy. You know what? It's only a game, folks. So let's just enjoy it for what it is tonight. So we're going to have a wee chat. I'm actually going to just let's go straight in with Craig's just mentioned Edinburgh's blunt attack. Let's use that as a tagline to let's talk about last weekend, Craig. I don't know what all the fuss is about. You're in 8th. You're going to finish top 8. You've got it sorted. You're winning games. It's got to be bright and breezy over your way now, surely.
Yeah, well, there's obviously doom and gloom along with the silver lining that we have, because obviously the silver lining is Darcy Graham, but he seems to be dragging this team along himself at the moment. Which basically makes what's the word? Makes the whole Lions chat, etc. And we can talk about that later. Quite interesting. Yep. Worrisome because Duhan's in a boot and he's going to be out till May. Worrisome because oh goodness, who else is injured? Oh god, it's just going right in my head. Anyway, yeah, another player is injured. I've just totally not like. Anyway, I'll come to it. Okay.
And then you'll have to interject it, so that's fine. Don't you worry.
32 next week, and I'm almost in a nursing home. And then but then you've got Ross Thompson, who had a fantastic game. We had some fantastic attack shapes. It seemed to work okay. Forwards worked well, but unfortunately, there is this brackets around the win because it was against Dragons. And really, if I say it quick enough, it was against Dragons. Then I can still take this. Oh yeah, we've won. Excellent. That's awesome. But yes, it was against Dragons. So it was. If you can't, I think we were just talking before they came on live on the pod. But if you can't beat Dragons, then you're doing something wrong. So we'll wait and see how we go. This weekend will be interesting because it's against a team that you absolutely teabagged at the weekend. We should hopefully do a good job against them, but we'll wait and see.
I would be hopeful about that, apart from the fact that Edinburgh played well last week, and the difficulty is seeing you play well 2 weeks in a row, I think. And it sounds like I'm trying to be harsh, but I'm not. It's just the consistency is an issue.
Alan, if we played well in 2 weeks in a row, we're winning the thing.
I've missed that chat so much, Craig. I loved when you were brutally optimistic and proven so wrong.
I like your point about Darcy. I was kind of struck watching the Edinburgh game that the old Marx Brothers movies, apparently the scripts used to just have Harpo does something funny, and that appears to be the equivalent of the Edinburgh game plan. Darcy does something brilliant.
Yeah. Well, mind you, I'll tell you one thing. The wheels on Paddy Harrison.
Right. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, to keep Ben Velicott behind you and score the try in front of him, he's done a good job there, that's for sure.
He'd be a
I mean-
worthy successor to Johnny Matthews.
Well, let's address that point just now, Alan, shall we? Paddy Harris, he is showing, like, we're talking about individuals for Edinburgh, and obviously there's still concerns about the kind of game plan, concerns about, obviously it only was the Dragons, but you know we're still leaking points. They're maybe still a wee bit blunt against sharper defences, but certain individuals are standing up. Harrison can't be a million miles away from looking at, like, really starting to pressure that Scotland shirt. You know, he's been one of the foreign players for Edinburgh.
Particularly given that Ewan Ashman was pretty underwhelming. I like Ashman, right? But he was pretty underwhelming in the Six Nations. I kind of like Dylan Richardson, without playing a minute, managed to advance his cause and become our first choice hooker pretty clearly. I think, yeah. But Harrison looks like a player. He looks like a player. And hopefully Ashman can come into a bit more form so Harrison can be eased in a little bit.
Can I make a serious point here?
Oh, well, I'm not sure about
That
that.
was being serious.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
I was as well.
I didn't mean it that way. I mean, I've been quite laughy jokey about Edinburgh and everything, but
you can make as serious a point as you would like.
There is a point to be made here, and I've been talking about this for some time on the pod, and I've been concerned about it for some time. But Ashman was on fire when he was playing for Sale, and he was out with. He came into this, he went from Sale straight into the Scotland team, and was scoring some outrageous tries. Was on. Did very, very well. Obviously, was George Turner's second in command, because George Turner was the go-to pick for Scotland at the time. And then he signed for Edinburgh. And again, I'll reiterate it. I still have this feeling, and this horrible feeling inside of me, that Edinburgh is a safe, comfortable place for Scotland internationals to be. And they get to a point. We get it in the Sales game when it's a quiet time of the year. You get into this comfort zone and you're quite relaxed, and then it gets busy again, and everything falls apart because you're too relaxed. Then once you get on top of it and you're actually sharp again, no matter how busy you are, you're on it. You're on it, and everything gets all the T's get crossed, all the I's get dotted, and I just feel. I've been concerned and more concerned because, for example, let's give a quick example. Jamie Ritchie. Jamie Ritchie has been Jamie Ritchie for a period of time, and then all of a sudden he gets his chance, maybe his last chance to maybe go on an Alliance tour. All of a sudden he's playing out his skin, and I think to myself, are these players becoming too comfortable at Edinburgh that they're just getting on with it, and that's it, and this is what's happening? And because Ashman has gone off the boil, and he's made some serious mistakes in lineouts, especially with Scotland, etc. So your point, Alan, about Paddy Harrison is correct, a correct one, and I would like, and Harrison, as we all know, because he's on the periphery of Scotland and also starting every time with Edinburgh, he is hungry, So yeah.
This has been a criticism for so long, though, Alan, hasn't it, of Edinburgh? Like, if you think back to the Cockerell era, you think back even before then, there was always that criticism of the players driving to training, driving to the stadium from the wee pitches and all that nonsense. This isn't anything new, so why hasn't it changed?
Yeah, good question. And actually, what is it that's wrong that multiple changes of coaches and lots of different coaching styles don't seem to have affected? And I don't know. Ewan Ashman's not alone in having gone off the boil. Look at what happened to Sam Skinner. Comes up to Edinburgh having been a prospect at Exeter, and then suddenly is not in the Scotland squad. You know, he's in when other people are He's only in when we've got a crisis in second rows, and that was not the player he looked like he was going to be. But I think there's some fundamental, Jamie Lang. Although he looked great on Saturday,
he looked excellent, and I'm not a fan of James Lang, as I've said a few times on this podcast, but he was very decent.
Yeah, and the thing is, do they just need enough change in personnel to clear out the sort of nucleus of the squad, and then bring in a new coaching team? Because you're never going to Edinburgh. The reality is Edinburgh aren't going to be able to change their squad fully because we just don't. We don't have the resources. We don't have the players to do that. So it's about getting some of the players out in key positions, not even ones that we think are negatively affecting the standard, but Jamie Ritchie going frees up. Edinburgh have a lot of young back rows that are, and I suppose what message does it send when they're bringing Matt Scott back, they're bringing Doohan back? If you're a young player at Edinburgh, you're kind of, well, I'm just a Scotland player's just going to come into my place. So maybe there's an element of that, and maybe they just need to give youth a bit more of its head, and accept that for a season or two things won't be as great. But you can't do that too much, because look at what Cockrell did to I keep wanting to say Neville Chamberlain, but Nathan Chamberlain. He looked like a prospect and then was just absolutely thrown in at in a key position and told to sink or swim, and unfortunately he sank and hasn't really surfaced at the same level. And that's the danger.
Yeah. So looking to this weekend, as you've already touched on, Craig, you've got a Lions team who, fresh from a pretty embarrassing defeat. Not getting beaten at Scotstoun's not embarrassing, but the nature, particularly of that second half, they'll be looking for something to bounce back, won't they? They're a strong side generally in the URC. They can compete, but what's your take on it? Will Edinburgh succeed here? Are we? Is this the last gasp for the Edinburgh season as well, or are you actually? I joked about the top 8, but where do you see the rest of it going?
I think for me, I think if we can string some wins together, I think the URC will qualify in the top 8. We'll get a couple of more games and then that'll be done. I don't see us, getting into semi-finals and finals of the URC. We're far too inconsistent for that. And tonight, if we're going to be general about this, I keep doing this and I keep blaming Allan for it.
We're recording this as the Edinburgh game's kicking off.
Yeah,
so if you're listening to this, we're trying to. So tomorrow, Saturday,
yeah, Sunday, whatever. For me, if this will be, I think this is going to be the test, because you're looking at a team that struggled, made the wrong choice against Glasgow on the kickoff, because they won the toss, if I remember correctly, and chose to play into the wind.
That's right.
And it was like, and Glasgow just went, yeah, we'll have the wind. We'll have the wind at our backs. Fantastic. And I think Glasgow are fitter than the Lions. And I think that showed. And where I'm concerned about with Edinburgh is that you've not got the wind. You've got the Lions, who have been embarrassed at Scotstoun, and when I say that, I mean they've to get nilled anywhere as a concern, and you've got a South African coach who's trying to make Edinburgh play the same way as South African teams. Unfortunately, South African teams know how to do that far better than Scottish teams. So it's one of those situations where we'll either beat them and do the same job as Glasgow, or not to the same extent, but we'll win comfortably. or this will be a dogfight, and you might see that the Lions take it. So it'll be into, and if that happens, then I can guarantee you we're not going anywhere with the top 8. But if we do beat them, then fingers crossed we're going to get a good couple of games into the playoffs.
And in terms, we obviously touched right at the start of this chat about Edinburgh, about the legally mandated Lions chat, which I'm not going to put the jingle on, although I really do want to do it to annoy Mark. The injury to Duhan, Allan, Darcy's put his hand up. Darcy has been kind of on the periphery of the conversations, but not really. Duhan's obviously been the one that's kind of been right at the top of most people's lists if you were talking about Scottish wingers going. But yeah, how is this injury going to affect his chances? And would he have been going anyway?
I think there aren't many players that can do what Duhan does. I mean, James Lowe is a fantastic brain of a rugby player. He's as smart a player as he is slappable. And that's saying something. But he doesn't have a lot of pace. He's not going to run over people. He's not going to do a run that Duhan can do. And actually, there's not an awful lot of wingers in the home nations and Ireland that can do that. So I think Duhan might have been in just because you can't coach someone to be that big and that fast. It's as simple as that. However, it's difficult to coach someone to be as electric as Darcy. And although they're very different players, they're clearly very different players, what they both are is difference makers. They're someone that, Harpo does something funny. They can both do something brilliant and turn a game. And both of them, I think, could do a job against Australia. So I would not be at all surprised to see Darcy in the squad. And actually, I think, A, it's Australia, so the size of Darcy matters a bit less. And B, he's kind of shown that he's able to run and tackle bigger than his size. So
I think also,
how bumblebees aren't meant to be able to fly. Darcy looks like he shouldn't be able to be a player, but he is, or a pro rugby player.
I think also you got to remember is that two things. Duhan, okay, he's injured at the moment, and talk about May before he's fit again. But Duhan's got credit in the bank. He's a Lions player. He's been away on a tour.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd be daft to overlook him. But on my side of things with Darcy, we forget that everyone keeps talking about test lines, and they pick their Lions 15. Yep. But you've got two squads basically going out there. Come on, you've got to put Darcy in there somewhere because you've got to have that. You can't just have like James Lowe. I think the big thing James Lowe has is he's got a massive boot on him as well, so that he can really clear the ball if need be, etc. But for example, you look at Mac Hansen and Darcy Graham. Well, I would take okay, fair enough, I'm Scottish, but I'd take Darcy. I'd take Darcy before Mac Hansen because he's
like the trip home, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, that's true, Matt, yeah. Oh no, it's what an Irish player that's not wasn't born in Ireland. Come on now, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But yeah, I think people like that. I think the Tommy Freemans and the
he's a 13 now, so.
Oh well, yeah, obviously he is. Yes, of course, and he's going to take Hugh Jones's Lions place.
He's a starting line at 13 now.
Absolutely,
after that epic performance against, brilliant Wales team.
Yes, you've clicked into what I've been thinking for some time, John, about how England's amazing attack. Oh, England's attack has clicked, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It was against Wales.
If you play an under-20s team, your attack tends to click.
Can we point out though that we were completely stag against Wales? But I think there is an element whereby Wales burnt out their bloody mindedness and resolve against Ireland and against us, and that took a lot for a team that had been written off, and that probably aren't or shouldn't be at the races international wise. And then, coming to the end of the season, that always has grit and sort of determination alone always has an expiry date. And then when it started to go wrong against England, it was like bump.
It just went wrong, didn't it? Let's just touch on a tiny bit. Well, a tiny bit. It's not a tiny bit. It's a really good bit of news for Edinburgh Rugby as well. Craig Goosen is signed on for some more time at Edinburgh Rugby. So you'll be happy with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, another couple of years for Wes Houston, and we did talk about the unfortunate timing of the and the way he was announced, but it was for those that don't know, they put up saying they put up a
coming soon
Top Gun
wingman or something.
Yeah, they put a Top Gun reference up before they announced who had signed. Unfortunately, it was the same day that Val Kilmer died. So rest in peace, Val. But hopefully, you saw the funny side of it when you saw it. So
could
yeah,
be his wingman any day.
He could. And so, it's great news. He really, after the first season that we had a lot of doubts about him because he was injured and he just didn't seem to click with the plastic pitch and everything like that. Once he got into his stride, he actually has been fantastic for Edinburgh.
He's a bit of a class act, to be fair. He just seems to have that thing that a lot of Southern Hemisphere based back three players have, where they look like they're running very slowly and yet everyone else is running slower than them. So he just has that kind of languid style, very Sean Maitland in my head.
Yeah,
so
his ego doesn't cash checks that his body can't cash, or whatever the right checks that his body can't. Totally blew that, Alan. Totally and utterly blew that. You had a nicely done.
How am I to blame for this? A tight head blaming the loose head for his mistake. On brand, Craig. Totally on brand.
This is absolute peak on brand here. There was some chat in the group earlier on. Alan did come up with a very very funny commentary on what we would call ourselves tonight, obviously, with Alan and Craig both being of the prop variety, but it didn't quite work because Craig took great offence to being termed. It was what was it? Two loose heads and a loose cannon or something. You went for Alan, didn't you? Yeah. So Craig took exception to being called such derogatory terms on loose head.
Loose head. I'm the linchpin off the scrum, not one of those fancy running around boys.
Why not just call me the scrum half and be done with it? So let's touch quickly on, it's a bit of a juxtaposition because obviously Edinburgh, both Scottish teams got wins, but Edinburgh, I think there seems to be some problems still kicking about over at the Hive. Over the road at Scotstoun, Alan, it's business as usual, back to business. Giving the Lions a good spanking in the wind. I don't know if that's an appropriate phrase, but yeah, it's going well over there. The team seems to be building. Got through the difficult Six Nations period, which is always tough for the Scottish sides. How far can Glasgow go in Europe? First of all.
Yeah, I think there's two really encouraging things from the last week's game. Firstly, the first half, 42 unanswered points, and then the second half into the wind, making sure they remain unanswered. And actually, I wonder if that's if I sit back and look at it, although the first half was more fun to watch in lots of ways, the second half was probably the more impressive. Yeah. It would have been easy to have, made a few business decisions on a tackle, let someone through because they weren't winning it, and actually that didn't happen. That's impressive. I think Glasgow haven't done that well in Europe. They haven't progressed. I would like to see a solid run. I think they have the players to be able to consider doing it. But that's tempered by the fact they haven't been there before. And generally, in all sports, you generally need some experience of getting there. The Leicester City sort of experience of doing it and having one mad season is very rare for a reason. It's very easy to kind of just fly a bit close to the sun, Icarus, like, to mix metaphors horrendously, and
Loving
then
it.
suddenly just realise where you are and plummet, and the performances go off. So but then Glasgow, everyone thought they didn't have a chance at the URC with the away fixtures, and then when they beat Munster, it was great, but they're going to the Bulls, they're going to Lotus Versfeld. It's been a good run, and they really, really, really powered through. So I think it's all right for Glasgow fans to believe. And I say that as someone with a lot of experience in Scottish rugby. I'm sorry for giving you all hope.
It's the hope that kills you. We know
fault.
this. We know this. Yeah, I think it's interesting, Craig, isn't it, that Glasgow continue to, they're seeming to be building at the right point of the season, getting some key players back. Adam Hastings, Kyle Steyn, both looking very, very good, having come back from injury. That's not a kid-on Leicester Tigers team that's been put out. Let's be honest. That's not, that's not Tony the Tiger stuff. They've picked a team to win at Scotstoun. Yeah. How do you see the fixture panning out? Do you think Glasgow can take them?
It depends, and this is a weird one to say because it doesn't. You don't normally say something like this, but it depends which Leicester Tigers turn up, because Leicester Tigers, have always been known as an amazing team, very, very, very physical, very, very strong, but lately they've been a bit absent, and they don't seem to have been gelling. But then all of a sudden, for the last 2 or 3 games in the Premiership, they've absolutely been on fire. So it's a real question of what they're going to bring. And just as you say, John, I actually didn't. I was going to message everyone, and when the team came out, because I was going to say, Leicester are not messing around here.
That's a full noise.
That's a full noise team. Pollard's coming. Van Portfleet is there. The what's his name? The Argentinian back rower, number 8, Augustus, is a real strong number 8. So it's Glasgow are going to have to bring their A game, and just as Alan has said, Glasgow are not afeard to bring their A game, and they are currently working incredibly well. So, look at George Horn, for example, who could be a bolter for the Lions, because he's Glasgow's top try scorer now. He's just been signed for another 2 years. He's on a high, and I'm disappointed is the wrong word. I'm slightly concerned for him, because I really do think he needs to go and play in France, or he needs to go and play in the Premiership or something to get some more experience of playing at different places. Because if Franco goes from Glasgow, I'm not entirely sure the SRU can have a great second album with lucking out on a good coach, with Glasgow. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think Glasgow will at home with the crowd, with the plastic pitch, I think they'll win it. And it'll be interesting. But it'll be a great game to watch, I'm sure.
I mean, that's the thing. I think, Alan, both teams look like they've stacked their packs for this. There's no quarter given. I think probably talk to me a bit about, as I said earlier on, Adam Hastings has come back from injury. I think the game at the weekend, probably Adam's best game since he's come back, admittedly one of his only games since he's come back, so it has sadly been quite injury prone, but there was no hesitation to throw Tom Jordan in at 12, which obviously, having played there in the Six Nations for Scotland, how do you think that worked at the weekend? And do you think it can stand up to what is a very big, like 10, 12 axis for Leicester?
We'll have to see. I think, so I think, yes, it can. I think Hastings looked close to his best, despite having had a lot of time in the treatment table, not just at Glasgow, but at Gloucester before. So it's good to see that back. I think TJ is doing that sort of that second 5/8 thing, but also being able to play standoff that Kiwi inside centres often do so well. And I know he's Scottish, but you know what I mean. He trained in the New Zealand system. So I think that gives Hastings an out. It also gives a different point of attack potentially for, when Leicester are having to defend against a different point of attack and not knowing, it's not, it's going out to 12, so it's a crash ball. And that's, that's a big difference. It's that crucial sort of split second hesitation. That's what Shoney's so good at, because you don't know if he's going to put a wee kick in behind, truck it up or offload it. All of these are options, and the defence just pauses. And rugby's a game of split seconds, isn't it? Particularly at the top level.
I'm still out a bit. I still haven't, and this is just me being, maybe I'm too old, or maybe I've banged my head too many times at rugby or something. I still don't get the fuss around Tom Jordan. I think he has been a great mixture player, as in, because people are talking about him as being a Lions bolter, but the reason he's a Lions bolter, and I think where he's a Swiss Army knife of a player. He can play 10, can play in the centres, and he can play at fullback. But everyone was talking about, and you've mentioned it a few times, John, and a lot of people a lot of Glasgow fans have talked about Tom Jordan being very physical. Yeah. But I just didn't feel he was physical in the Six Nations when he was playing for Scotland. And I think that I think he is destined to be an incredibly good physical player for his team, as in his club. But when it comes to international, I think he's going to have a slightly different game. I just felt that there was a few times he took players on in the Six Nations that then he got rattled back a little bit when he took the ball into contact at times.
I think there's two different things about his physicality, though, because I was noticing that in the Six Nations as well. I think when people talk about his physicality, it's in defence. It's when he hits people, when he puts them back, and he is very physical with that. But you're right, he is not as physical when trucking the ball up. It's the launch and the explosiveness into the tackle that people are noticing. I think.
Okay.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think you are also spot on, Craig. I think at club level, I think what you are seeing at Glasgow, particularly I thought last weekend, he was quite physical in attack. He was breaking tackles, taking people with him. You're absolutely right. I don't think at international level, let's be honest, he wasn't alone in that from Scotland.
Oh no. I'm not just pointing at him and going.
I think physically, I think Scotland whisper it at times looked underpowered during the Six Nations, and that's a concern. But historically we always have been. But yeah, Alan, you're spot on it. I think defensively, he, for a relatively small man, puts himself about in ways that concern people, because you're like, don't hit him like that. Oh no, he's got a wee bit high. So, but I think it's interesting to hear that, hear him as a Lions bolter. I think it's funny we're all going, he's a Swiss Army knife of a player. We all kind of found that out by accident, because he hadn't played fullback in anywhere, and comes on and plays very well, and we all of a sudden we go, he can play fullback, fantastic. Where else can he play? We always had him as a 12 who was a 10, but I would whisper it. Do I now think he's a 10 that's a 12? I think his default might be 10. I think he's improved his skill set so much in that position. So
I think he's a 10. That's a 12 and a 15. I think he's one of those players, and I think he's a good footballer.
Can I dare say it that he is a Pete Horn?
I think, yeah. Well, having seen Pete Horn play fullback, no, you can't say that. No.
You thought Pete Horn should be able to play fullback, but the reality wasn't quite.
That was almost as bad as the time they thought Ross Thompson should play fullback, or Nico Matalawu. He was putting it fullback once.
Yeah,
well.
I remember that, and that was wow. Talking about snakes in a bag.
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We made some interesting calls on fullbacks back in the day. Good times had by all. Right, let's briefly talk. I know we're over our kind of allotted time, but we'll
put a break in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'll pop a wee break in. Yeah, all good. Or I'll get Rory to do that. So let's talk quickly about the Women's Six Nations. Scotland, France. One of those ones, right? It's a fixture that you go into it, Craig, and you go, we've not got any hope in hell of getting a result out of this, really, have we? Given the disparity of the sides and the historical stuff. But at half-time, you're sitting going, oh, we've not been that bad here. This is not bad at all. And obviously the score runs away from us in the end up. But what a performance, like up to half-time. Not bad at all.
Yeah, and I think this is the growth of the team. There's certain new players coming in which are helping the growth of the team. They've got a really large amount of players now. They've got great, dare I say it, depth at different levels, and so we're now at stage. I think where the big test will be Red Roses, mainly to stay in the game with the Red Roses and not get slapped about like Wales got slapped about. And if you remember, we were, Wales kept us very keen, kept us honest, I should say, when we played them at the first game of the season, or the Six Nations. So we have to just be careful. But yeah, to go to La Rochelle, rugby central in France.
Yeah.
And to stay in the game for 60 minutes and then just at the end just start to lose a little bit. However, what I would say is it was a fairly Hail Mary try from Scotland, because it was one of those Darcy Graham-esque try out of nowhere sort of thing. So we just have to be careful. But yeah, great to see. And again, I have to mention it. Great to see Molly Pullman getting our first cap for the senior squad. Just a player to watch, a tight head prop that really, we will see playing for Scotland regularly. And also, again, I'm just yapping because they're Howard Fifers, but Adele Ferry again getting a second cap, and it really is showing that things are moving on within this. What's nice is, and let's take those players out of it. We're bringing in new players into the squad, and they are fitting in. They're at the same level. They're able to do a good job on the field. There's not a disparity between the Jade Conkle and then all of a sudden and also ran. It's a real. It's really comforting and great to see where we're going.
It's funny. It's almost like, I don't know, Alan, professionalism makes a difference, eh?
I mean, yes, it definitely does. So I didn't see the game live and watched it back knowing the score. I actually had thought, looking at the score and looking at the scoring, I thought we were more in it than we turned out to be in the first half. I think there's points where the scrum was folding, and actually I was like, I'm surprised the score was as it was at half time.
Yeah. But
actually, how they came out after half time and how they put themselves together, having been, I felt lucky to be only 6 points down. I thought actually spoke wonders for the team, and everything went quite well. And if it was Emma Orr who just was unlucky to knock it on over the try line early in the second half, they would have taken it to 14-13, and actually that was a wee bit of a sliding doors moment. But then the French sort of power and fitness came to tell in the end. But I actually was I think I would have been quite fearful for Scotland in the first half, but it got better coming up to half time, and then just after half time, I thought, the way they came out was incredibly positive. And yeah, I gave France, the point where France were kicking penalties to get further ahead, and that always shows, doesn't it? If a team are really confident they're not in a dogfight, they're kicking to the corner. Whereas they were like, oh no, we'll take the 3 here.
Yeah,
Which I think actually showed Scotland a good bit of respect.
Yeah, I think also, Evie Gallagher was really missed. I think if someone was going to cause the power and the strength of France a problem, and that would be Evie Gallagher, because she can pull gain line meters out of nowhere. So it's a shame.
And while Jade was that player in the past, that's not the phase of the career she's in now.
Yeah, very much so.
So I'll finish up tonight's podcast by asking you both the most unfair question I think I've ever asked on this podcast. I know. So someone's barking in the background. Like,
we've taken on our nephew's dog because they're away. So we've taken them on. So she's come in and is creating a wee bit of a stir, an elderly lamb.
It's because I'm about to ask an unfair question, right? So previously on the podcast, we've kind of, we've talked about Scotland, we've speculated, we've been through the whole journey. I'll start with you, Craig. We've been through the whole journey with them, with this podcast. We've went through into kind of that full professionalism that they kind of papped us off with initially. We've got some professional contracts. We're making progress in that space. We would have argued probably not that long ago that France and England were 10, 15 years ahead of Scotland in terms of professionalism. How far ahead are they now in terms of years?
I
told you it was an unfair question.
I think they're definitely still 5 to 6 years ahead of us. I think where England now are, especially England, I think England really...
England are further ahead, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I think where they're further ahead is strength, physicality. I'm sure that there's a lot of players who are incredibly fit within the Scotland team, because I know there are. But where you've got incredibly fit players, they drop off, their focus drops off. We're now at a stage with the Red Roses that they can take anyone, and you're going to see this at the World Cup this year. You're going to see them wipe the floor with virtually everybody, and the Red Roses could go through the World Cup unbeaten. And when you're bringing everybody from all over the world into a World Cup to play against them, you would expect them to get a bloody nose here and there. But no, the strength and physicality of all the players. You look at Ellie Kildunn, for example, World Player of the Year. Looks quite a slight person when you see her in pictures, etc. But actually, when you see her in the rugby field, she's incredibly strong, can get through tackles. So those players, it's going to be a difficult one. But I think we will eventually get there. I'm hoping at some point we are going to find. We kept talking about this, John. England will plateau.
Well, they have to.
Plateau, and they'll not, because they can't get any better. They can't get 10, 15% better every year. They can't do it. We will catch them, and we will have a Six Nations where we will not know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, but it takes
when
time.
That happens, I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
And same question to yourself, Alan, just to finish up. Similar views to Craig?
Yeah, and I think sitting back and thinking about it, I'm trying to sum it up in a sentence as is my wont, but I think we haven't closed the gap. What we've done is stop the Frances and the Englands of this world widening it.
Yeah.
That's the difference that we made. Now, obviously, the goal will be, and it will happen, that we will close the gap. Listen, all empires fall in the end, and England will lose to the Kiwis in the final again, as is good and right.
There you go. Well, there's a beautiful thought to end tonight's today, yesterday's podcast, whatever.
This morning, this afternoon, and this evening.
Yeah, you just pick your time frame, insert your time frame here. We've got you. Thank you to the guys for joining us tonight. We will be back next week. I don't know if I'll be back. It's the joy of being the legacy tour. You know, I don't know what city I'll be in. I don't know where I'll be podding. But thank you guys for having me along tonight, and thank you to my guests Craig and Allan. Cheers and good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you and good night. And good afternoon and good morning.
And good afternoon and good day, yeah.
But not brunch. We're not